Hello everybody out there, this is Seto Kaba from your Yu-Gi-Oh! Chat channel, and today I'm going to talk about what I feel are the top 5 most busted cards ever to be printed in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Now, you can have your own opinion, and please down below tell me what you feel is the number 1 most busted card ever to be introduced into the game. If you don't like my list, then you can tell me your top 5 too. But let's get started on what I feel are the top 5 most busted cards ever to be introduced into the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! At number 5, we have one of my favorites, but I think a lot of people consider him broken too. He's the only monster card on my list. That is Grapha. I really think feel that Grapha should be on this list. I really felt like it should be. If there's going to be a monster on this list, it should be Grapha as one of the most busted cards ever that was ever made. For the fact that he can die and you can bring him back. He can die, you can bring him back. I've done that. You can attach him to an Exceed. You detach the Exceed part, then you bring the Grapha back from the grave, and then you have 2 big monsters on the field. So I mean, he's really so broken. And then if your opponent decides that, oh, I'm gonna choose a random card out of your hand to discard, and he doesn't know you're playing Dark Worlds, he's gonna really take a pounding from it. Especially I remember like the days when Gravekeepers and Gravekeepers were still around, and Dark Lords were coming on the scene, and people were playing Gravekeepers and going Royal Tribute, and then they would run into a Dark Lord player. Oh my gosh, he used Royal Tribute 3, 4 Dark Lord monsters, and it was just like the game. So I mean, I feel that overall he is the number 1 most busted monster card out there. I think there's more, but that is still in play today. I feel like he's the one of the most busted ever. At number 4, we have a card that's on the ban list, and that is Pot of Greed. I think Pot of Greed, we could argue that there's some more busted cards out there, but for a card that just says draw 2 cards, there's no drawbacks, nothing bad about it, just draw 2 cards from your deck, thin the deck out, that's all you do. It's, you get a +1, it's an automatic +1. What's bad about that? There's nothing bad. There's no pullbacks. It's not like Graceful Charity, even though that's banned because of Dark Worlds, where you have to discard something or something like that. No, it's just draw 2 cards. Too broken, in my opinion. There's more broken stuff, but I feel like it's too broken. Number 3 on the list, Harpies Feather Duster. Now I know people have said like traps are not relevant right now, but I feel that they're still relevant, especially where I live. People are still running things like bottomlesses, compulsoraries, Fiendish Chains, cards that can really shut a deck down. They Fiendish Chain your monster. What are you going to do about it? But Harpy's Feather Duster is just such a broken card still, in my opinion. It's not like Heavy Storm, where it can possibly destroy your back row as well as your opponent's, which is the drawback. Harpy's Feather Duster doesn't do that. Harpy's Feather Duster doesn't touch your back row. It just destroys your opponent's back row. You're going against a trap-heavy deck, just play Harpy's Feather Duster. Destroys all their back row. Nothing. I mean, that's so broken. It doesn't touch me, it just touches you. And that tells you one thing, too. A lot of these older cards are more busted than newer cards. It's the new decks that make, the old cards that make new decks broken. For example, Super Rejuvenation with Elemental Dragons. Super Rejuvenation was never really used. It was used back in the day, it was only used for Exodia decks. When Elemental Dragons came on the scene, people put Super Rejuvenation in there. An old card makes a new deck broken, and people are now talking about that card getting banned or limited to 1. So, next up, number 2 on the list is Monster Reborn. Why do I feel Monster Reborn's at number 2 instead of number 1? I feel there's a more busted card than it. Also, it's just a good card overall. It almost made the number 1 slot, but there's a better card out there, I feel, that's more busted. Monster Reborn is just a good card in general, and it's a broken card. I think it's one of the most broken cards that's still legal in the game today. We could argue. But you can reborn anything from your opponent's graveyard or your graveyard. Just too broken. Great top deck, great everything about that card. You can't say enough good things about it, but it's so broken, and each year I keep hearing on the ban list, this card's going to get banned. I don't think it's going to get banned this year. Number 1 most broken card ever, I think, to be made in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Gekki Break. Gekki. Too broken. Too broken. So broken that it got banned on the first ban list. That's how broken this card is. It's been gone since the original ban list. Same thing like Pot of Greed. It hasn't seen the ban. It hasn't come off the ban list at all. Where Gekki Break is just so broken. Imagine nowadays you could create an OTK. You could do a whole bunch of different things. Where Gekki Break, it's like a dark hole but better. Dark hole destroys your, like Heavy Storm destroys your monsters and your opponent your monsters and your opponents. Regeki doesn't do that. Just destroys your opponent's monsters. No drawbacks. Just poof, bye bye. Destroy all your cards. I'm fine. OTK. There's so many decks. This is like it's an automatic OTK. Leaves your opponent wide open for an attack. If you got this in Harpies Feather Duster back in the day, they have no back row, they have no defenses. You just attack directly right there and don't have to worry about a thing. And it could automatically change your opponent the game around. It's just such a busted card. I remember back in the day when this card was legal, because I've been around the game for so long. It could just change a game. It could change a game around, literally. It could make the game twice as longer just because somebody destroyed all your monsters. But it's just such a broken card. And when I still play it with my Exodia deck, it still can turn a game. It still does the same thing it did back in the inception of Yu-Gi-Oh! It's such a broken card, in my opinion, that it actually deserves to be #1 on the list. But tell me what you think is the #1 most busted card in Yu-Gi-Oh! And if you don't like my list, you could tell me your top 5 too. But I hope you like this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed the most busted cards, what I feel are the most busted cards ever to be created in Yu-Gi-Oh! And until next time, everybody, take care, have fun out there, fight the main meta. Seto Kaiba, I'm out of here.